You know what? I am so sorry. I have not been kind to my guest up until this point. Lord Imusama, the floor is yours. What's going on? What video should we make today? What's on your mind right now? All right, Marie Geoise on fire. Yeah, damn, we keep forgetting about that. It's going on in the background. It's happening right now, but it's just like there's a lot of other stuff going on too. Right? Okay, Marie Geoise on fire, and in fact, it is so much on fire. Like, shit has officially hit the fan so damn hard. Somebody blasted all of the shit out of a supersonic cannon that slammed into a fan, just spinning around like a jet turbine so damn hard that Emu, the lord of the entire world that previously doesn't really get involved all that much, is now like hyper fixated, concerned about the nature of what's going to unfold at Marie Geoise and has involved themselves at Elbaf. Has like, hey, we're out of time, right? Holy Land is burning down. Everything is going just completely south at this point. I am possessing Gunko. I am sending my God's Knights to Elbaf, something I have previously stated I did not want to do because that whole debacle with Harald just went crazy, and like there's some creepy, dangerous monster that can one-shot a monster like Harald. Like, what the hell is that? So that's why Emu doesn't really get involved. But like now they are. So it's like, okay, this is not just an insignificant thing, right? I just also want to reiterate once again, during the reverie, the Revolutionary Army commanders, 3 of them, plus Sabo. Sabo's the chief of staff, but he's the same basic power level, if not stronger, than like Morley, Karasu, Lindbergh. They were all there. The only one that wasn't there was Bello Betty. But yeah, Sabo, Karasu, Morley, and Lindbergh were there, and they got into a fight where they blew up a bunch of granaries and destroyed a celestial dragon like sigil in the city. And by the way, just the fact they were able to infiltrate the celestial dragon city, the domain of the gods, which is an even more like even the other kings and like royalty of the world that go to the reverie are not allowed in the domain of the gods. That is like a strictly off-limit place. Like, you have to be a celestial dragon to go in there, right? Okay, so they infiltrated that place, destroyed a bunch of buildings and structures, and also fought against the admirals, putting a bunch of celestial dragons in danger. Emu didn't seem to really care enough about that to get involved, right? Just kind of left that one up to Aramaki and Isho, Fujitora and Green Bull, really. Didn't send the God's Knights over there to deal with it, didn't get involved themselves, even though that's like, that shit literally happened on Emu's front door. Like, Emu was like over there probably observing what was happening from the windows of Castle Pangea, sipping some tea, and was just like, so... The Revolutionary Army commanders have invaded the domain of the gods, blown up all of the granaries, shortening our food supplies, destroyed the sigil, and are now fighting against 2 of the admirals. Emu goes get some popcorn and a nice little lawn chair and just sits down by the window and just watches that unfold. Like, well, this is a pretty cool fight. I got to admit, this is pretty neat. I'm not going to, get involved myself. The Gorosei were there too. The Gorosei could have showed up and went into their yokai forms and done something. The God's Knights were probably available. They have, teleportation abilities. Nope, none of that. So Emu didn't really care about that. But now, whatever the hell is happening up there, as Sabo has said, hell is happening up there. It's severe, all right? So now, get ready for this. I'm going to give you 5, count them, 5 different possibilities on what's going on top of the red line right now in the holy land of Marie Geoise. I have organize these from the most likely to the least likely, because I understand not all of these are probably going to happen. Some of them, I don't know if you can guess, some of them might be my own headcanon. Just a few. So the first one, the most likely one, I'm actually not going with the Revolutionary Army because I feel like that's like a super obvious thing. I'm actually going to go with Blackbeard's crew. It's usually one or the others. Whenever you talk to somebody in the One Piece fandom about this, it's usually Blackbeard is attacking Marie Geoise or the Revolutionaries are attacking Marie Geoise. Those seem to be the 2 most likely ones. I'm actually going to put Blackbeard on top because in chapter 1126, that was a crazy chapter. Bartolomeo blew up. But after that, we also go to Hachinosu to see what Blackbeard's up to. He gets back to Hachinosu Hachinosu after the fight with Law's crew on Wiener Island, right? Law and Beppo got away, but the rest of the crew was, I guess, captured. So he gets back to Hachinosu, and, nonsense has occurred while he was gone. Kobe and Moria escaped, and, Blackbeard was given Avala Pizarro and a mouthful of just like, how dare you, Avala Pizarro? How dare you do this? What I left for like 2 days, and like the entire island is destroyed. What happened? Kobe escaped? Moria's gone? What's wrong? What happened? Right? And so he's just giving him a mouthful, and then also he's talking about Vegapunk's message, and he's saying that, like, dude, the cat's out of the bag now, officially, right? Like, the poneglyphs aren't some secret anymore. All of the Yonkos are going to be tearing each other apart trying to get their hands on them now. The world's going to flood, and he's basically talking about, like, we got to move. We got to get moving now, because the government and the Marines, if we don't get one up on them now, it's just going to be absolute bedlam, right? Like, it's just going to be chaos from the wake of Vegapunk's message to the entire world. At the same time, he's also pretty happy that they have Garp. He's like, okay, Aokiji, what did you do? And he's like, well, we captured Garp. We might have lost a Kobe, but we gained a Garp. I'm like, all right, but Blackbeard's like, all right, that could do something. We could do something with that, right? And then Van Auger and Katarina Devon get back to the island from their mission at Egghead. So Katarina copied one of the Gorosei, Saturn. Saturn's currently dead, so I don't know if, I'm assuming, well, no, we actually know that because she was able to copy Absalom, and then Absalom's dead, but she can still turn into him. So even though Saturn is no longer around, she could probably still transform into him. Whether that means she could transform into his yokai form, what the limits of Katarina's nine-tailed fox zone are really there, we're not really sure, okay? If she can go into all of the different forms that he had, or just his human form, either way, they have that, so mission accomplished there. And they also have Caribou, and Caribou has the hot news. He's just like, hey, you don't want to kill me. You want Blackbeard, teach, the Admiral, he's going to want to talk to me, because I actually know where 2 of the ancient weapons are right now. So I know what's up with Poseidon, and I know what's up with Pluton. Sorry, I couldn't figure out Uranus. I don't know where that's at, but like, I know where the 2 of them are at least, okay? I gotta know exactly where they are. Turns out Poseidon is a mermaid princess down in Fishman Island, and it also turns out that Pluton is under Wano. Turns out like there's a Wano under Wano. Didn't really understand that, but that's where it's at, right? And so Blackbeard was like, yeah, all right, I'll listen to you. I'll hear you out. And we actually haven't heard that conversation yet. They were arriving at the island, and Caribou was freaking out because Avala Pizarro is the island, and they were like picking the boat up and like moving them closer to the giant skull mountain, and Caribou was like, oh god, no, or I'm gonna die. And yeah, we haven't had the conversation yet, but you know how Caribou is, and Caribou also looks up to Blackbeard. He's like his biggest, fan, so he's obviously gonna be like, oh, Admiral Teach, man, I've been wanting to see you forever. And Blackbeard's probably gonna look at him and be like, ha ha ha, I know, I'm incredible. You have 10 seconds. You have 10 seconds to convince me why I shouldn't just have my crew kill you right here in front of me. And Blackbeard's not in the greatest mood right now either. So Caribou's obviously going to just, on the ground, weeping and wallering. Wallering? Is that a term? Walrusing. He's going to sit on the ground, turn into a walrus, and he's going to instantly just spill all of the beans about everything he's learned since he's been with the Straw Hats way back at the end of the Sabaody arc, or the return to Sabaody arc, all the way down to Fishman Island, and then Jinbei brought him up to G5, and then he led a revolution briefly, and then he had his ass kicked by Drake, who was a dinosaur at the time, then got thrown into the jail at Wano, and then got freed, and then was part of the revolution there, and then he found out about Pluton. He's going to tell the whole damn story, within a compressed period of 30 seconds to Blackbeard, and then Blackbeard's going to be like, okay, all right, yeah, I think you bought yourself, at least not a gruesome death. I don't know if Caribou's life is still going to be 100%. Like, Caribou making it out of this story alive, like, yeah, he might die, and I don't think anybody's going to weep for him, but I think for right now, he'll be able to, at least, the information he has will buy his survival for at least a little longer, right? So Blackbeard's going to know. He's going to know where Poseidon is and where Pluton is. So, and also, though, he brought up, like, oh, okay, the world in general, though, the government and the Marines and everybody are going to be mobilizing. So I think Oda's really clever with this. It's like, okay, we could have Blackbeard going to Fishman Island right now, because if Mosa that Loki was speaking with is actually Shirahoshi. That is actually his pen pal. She also said some bad stuff was happening at Fishman Island, if that was in fact Shirahoshi. I'm, inclined to believe that it was, but we don't know yet for certain. But if it was, then that means that Fishman Island is maybe under attack right now, and Marie Geoise is under attack. They're both on like the same, the same point, just at different altitudes. Fishman Island is way at the bottom of the ocean, and then Marie Geoise is way at the top of the red line, one at the bottom of the red line, one at the top. So maybe it could be related. Not really sure. Maybe Blackbeard could be going after Fishman Island, and then the revolutionaries are going after Marie Geoise. So the revolutionaries are trying to liberate the world, and then meanwhile Blackbeard is trying to, take over, one of the ancient weapons to help him control the world. So that would be an interesting little duality there, if nothing else. Yeah, so I'm going to say Blackbeard, though, because he could just be like, you know what? Let's go after Marie Geoise right now. Like, that might be a thing, because also right after that conversation, that was also part of it, Lafitte was also away doing some reconnaissance. Lafitte was at one of the shipyards of Umit Shipping. Umit was one of the guys that we saw at Big Mom's Tea Party. That he was like a magnate that basically owns the monopoly of overseas shipping on the Grand Line. And so Lafitte was mentioning how all of these shipyards had been targeted by the revolutionaries, and that the gondolas at Redport are getting blown up, and that no matter what the Marines are trying to do, they just cannot get food to the Holy Land. And so at this rate, the Celestial Dragons may in fact end up starving to death. Okay, so Blackbeard does have options. I mean, he lost Kobe and his island got wrecked, but he has Garp, and he still has Kuzan, one of the former admirals, working for him, and Kuzan seems okay with that, so that's another problem for him. But, there's that, and then he also has access. He now knows information about 2 of the ancient weapons and their location, and he has information. Blackbeard has a lot of information. Maybe as so much as Big Mom's information network, but he knows stuff. Oh, and he has Pudding, too. Yeah. Augur and Kuzan went to Cacao Island and kidnapped Pudding, and so Pudding is also there, and she has her third eye maybe awakened, and so maybe she could read poneglyphs. So with all of this stuff added up, Blackbeard actually is really in charge right now. He's got options on what he can do. So I think any of those locations, Blackbeard goes to Fishman Island, that's a smart idea. Going to Wano might not be the smartest idea right now. They're not, the strongest, especially since they just got done fighting Kaido. Momonosuke and his scabbards are there, but, and Yamato is still there. But, maybe going after Wano's not the best idea. But I would say Holy Land, Fishman Island, those options are there as well. And then going to maybe find the poneglyphs so Pudding can decipher them. Now, Pudding at the same time would not agree to that. I'm not really sure if she even has the ability to, but she's not going to willingly. Honestly, I think if Pudding was given the choice, if they had one of the poneglyphs and Blackbeard was like, all right, go and read it, or if you don't, we'll just kill you, I think Pudding would probably go with the latter. I don't think Pudding, even under threat of death, would listen to Blackbeard. So I think that she has that level of just determination of just no, I'm not doing it. There'd have to be something else involved to get her to do that. Unless, going back to Katarina really quick, if her ability as the Nine-Tailed Fox mythical zone allows her to copy the abilities of the people that are dead, maybe not Devil Fruit abilities, but Pudding's power is not a Devil Fruit power. She does have one. She has the Memo no Mi, but her third eye ability to read any language or hear the voices of all things, we don't really know that much about the Third Eye tribe. That might be an ability she just has, right? And so if Katarina Devon is oh, you're not willing to help us, I'll just use my powers to copy you, and then I'll have the power. So they could just do that too. So yeah, Blackbeard being one of the possibilities, that makes sense. Second most likely possibility, and honestly more on even keel, is the Revolutionary Army attacking Marie Geoise, right? And this makes sense for a bunch of different reasons. Right after Vegapunk's message, Dragon was at Kamabaka looking out to sea, as he's wont to do, of course, as he does. He's looking out at sea, and he's thinking about Vegapunk's message, and the last time he talked to him, you remember Dragon was having that conversation with Shaka at the beginning of the arc, and he was like, I think I'm gonna die soon, Dragon. And Dragon's like, oh, I don't understand when you start talking all cryptic like that, right? And so they hear his message, and they know the world is about to flood. Now remember, the whole goal of the Revolutionary Army is it's the army of the people, right? That's their main goal. It is to get rid of the Celestial Dragons, but it's also to make sure the people can establish a new government and the world can be run fairly and abolish slavery. That is Dragon's goal, right? So he's thinking about how, like, now that the world knows that every place is going to flood pretty soon, it's like the world is going to be thrown into chaos. People are going to start killing each other over the highest land. You know, like, it's literally a battle of king of the hill, all right? So it's like, you know, if there's a country that's a higher elevation that has, like, maybe a lot of mountains and things like that, there might be another island that might wage war against that island just to get the higher land. Okay? And so Dragon is really worried about that. And it's like, food's probably going to start running out and all this sort of things. And it's going to be absolute chaos. You know, and it's just like the people of the One Piece world just recently found out that, yeah, the world's going to end soon. So you can imagine the level of chaos that's going to yield, right? And so, like, the world economy is just going to be in chaos. It's just going to be a mess. Now, where is the highest spot in the entire world? Other than Skypiea, other than the Sky Islands, right? The place that, you know, the Celestial Dragons are living. Marie Geoise, the top of the Red Line. And the Red Line has a lot of real estate. It's a giant continent that spans the entire planet, right? There's one city that we know of, Marie Geoise, and we know that that, like, area has been cultivated, so there's, like, artificial, like, aqueducts and lakes and, like, an artificial forest that's there. A few years ago, I did a video on if the Straw Hats were to attack Marie Geoise, which that might still happen, by the way, now that teleportation exists in the story. And so we also, I made this, like, map, this basic, like, structure of what it kind of might look like. The artificial forest, the waterways, the domain of the gods, Castle Pangea takes a big chunk out of it, the travelators, little conveyor belts, the different red ports and the gondolas, right? But, like, the Red Line stretches, you know, like, around the entire planet. So Dragon's ultimate goal right now might not just be attack Marie Geoise to get rid of the Celestial Dragons, but more like, no, the people of the world need to survive this flood. The only way they're going to be able to survive is if they get up to a place that's really high, and it also needs to have a lot of space for the entire world to stay on top of. There is only one place in the entire world, granted it's a massive continent, but there's only one place in the entire world that can be done. So it has to be the Red Line. So the Dragon might just be like, you know what? We're going after Marie Geoise. We're going to take care of it. We're going to siege the city. We're going to take possession of it. And then we're going to allow everybody in the world to get up there. I don't know how they're going to do it, but they do have options. Like, Morley has the push fruit. You know, her ability to, like, shape the earth would be pretty useful in getting people up to the top of the Red Line. Like, with Morley's power, you know, the revolutionaries could just open up a bunch of different elevators. People walk on different, like, slabs of earth, and they just get shot to the top. And then there you go. It's like, okay, next group up. You know, next one up. You know, and that's how they could get up there. Karasu has the ability to turn into a bunch of crows, an entire murder of crows to fly people to the top. So this would be a massive evacuation effort. Pretty much everybody in the entire world, all the four blues. There's a couple of other places that might be okay. Like, there's places that are already very high in elevation that might be fine. Water 7 might be fine because Iceberg was already under the development of turning that entire island into a floating ship, you know, and it's an island of shipbuilders, so I think they'll be okay. But yeah, there's a few places that'll be fine, but, like, for the most part, there's going to be a massive evacuation effort, and Dragon has to be the head of that. The Revolutionary Army has to organize the people in this effort, and they have to siege the city. They have to take it over first before they're able to do that, okay? So it being the Revolutionary Army, and they're just like, no, we don't have time anymore. Like, now, the only problem with that is, you know, this is happening kind of off screen, and this is, like, the big event. This is the revolution that's actually occurring, right? You know, this is happening while the Straw Hats are in Elbaf. Don't worry, we're going to get a flashback to all that of what's occurring at Marie Geoise right now, but it could be Dragon, right? Something that's also very alarming is that Dragon might not be looking east anymore. He was staring out at sea, you know, watching the sunrise in the east, and then, you know, like, Ivankov comes up to him and be like, Dragon, what's the plan? And Dragon was like, you know, he turns a different direction, and all of the Revolutionary Army is like, oh my god, it's happening, we're mobilizing now, Dragon changed directions, it's happening, the revolution, right? And it's like, that's how you know it gets serious, right? So those are the two most likely ones. We got Blackbeard, what's up with him, and then we have the Revolutionary Army, okay? Now, third most likely outcome. Eneru descends from the moon. Just follow me on this. Let me have this. Eneru descends from the moon with his massive army of robots, of automata, as he's driving down the Maxim, and he puts his sights initially on the city of Marie Geoise because it's the closest city that would challenge his reign, and he just begins bombarding the entire land of the gods. Now, you might say that's silly and ridiculous. Honestly, I'm only kind of half kidding about that, all right? Eneru's going to come back into the story at some point, right? It'd be weird if he just never did. Last time we saw him, he literally had an army of robots and a fully powered up moon city, all right? And the Maxim. He still has the Maxim. So, like, okay, where's that plot thread going to go? It'd be weird if that just never went anywhere, okay? So that's going to happen, and if he were to descend back into the Blue Sea world, like, I shall now conquer the whole Blue Sea with my mighty army, because at the end of the day, I mean, Eneru wanted to go to the moon because he thought it was like some fantasy fairy location, the fairy Earth, but like, honestly, there's not much to do up there. I mean, his only company is a bunch of robots with mustaches. I don't know. I feel like Eneru would get pretty bored, considering also he was god of Skypiea for 6 years, and even in that time, he wasn't like super entertained. He was just like using that as a mechanism to enslave the people to build his giant ark to get to the moon, because I guess he thought he would have achieved like enlightenment or nirvana or some shit. And so maybe he gets up there and he has his army and that's all cool and everything. He beat up some aliens, but he's like, okay, now what? I mean, at the end of the day, the moon is smaller and just more barren than the blue planet, which is right below you. So maybe Eneru, from like the last 2 years looking down at the blue planet, he was like, you know what? This thing is way bigger and looks way more interesting, and there's like better food and more interesting things to do, so I'm just going to build up my army and attack it, right? And so maybe he was learning about the Blue Sea world for the last 2 years, the blue planet. Maybe he learned that, wait a minute, look at the red line, and on top of the red line there's one city. Huh, that seems like the only place that would really challenge me, because they're at the very top of the mountain. I should target that place first. Now, another reason why this would be a big deal, because if this isn't the revolution, because the revolution would be like a major story event. Like, that's like end game level stuff we're talking about, right? Marie Geoise getting attacked by the Revolutionary Army. Kind of the same thing with Blackbeard. That'd be a big deal. If it was Eneru attacking Marie Geoise, you could say, like, it was really devastating for sure, and he was raining lightning down on the domain of the gods, but then you could have had the Gods Knight show up and stop him. Remember, Otis said this a while ago, that if Eneru, he was answering an SBS question, and if Eneru was a pirate on the Blue Sea world, he would have a bounty of like 500 million, which is impressive, especially back when Oda revealed those numbers. It was one of the highest bounties out there. But he also mentioned that there are so many strong characters that Eneru would never have ruled the Blue Sea. Okay, so he goes and attacks Marie Geoise. It's causing a problem, enough of a problem that Emu gets a little nervous, but like ultimately they are able to beat him back. Okay, and it's like, okay, we still have the revolution. And also, honestly, it could be Eneru weakening Marie Geoise that could lead the revolutionaries to be like, all right, now is definitely our chance. We were not expecting it was like, oh, man, I'm invading Marie Geoise. This is going to be a lot of logistics. I don't know if we can do it. All of a sudden, this random Eminem-looking guy just, I am God, descended from on high, shooting force lightning everywhere. And Dragon's like, wait, hold up. Let's see where this goes. Let's see where this is going, right? And so eventually the Gods Knights and the Garo say, maybe Garling goes into his yokai form and slices him down, right? And it's like, okay, the Eneru threat is taken care of. They destroy the Maxim and everything. All the automata are obliterated. They defend the Holy Land, but like there was a lot of damage in the process, right? And then Dragon's like, wait a minute, that guy left us an opening. I don't know who the hell that was, but let's go. Let's go. It's now the time, right? Okay, so that's that. Now the last two, this is just more funny for me, but I'm going to throw it out there. Option 4. Turns out the Lunarians are still around, and they mobilized their own revolution to take back the place that was stolen from them. So all the Lunarians show up out of nowhere. King never knew they were around, and then they descend and attacked Marie Geoise. That's just something I was like, because it was on fire. Lunarians can control fire, and it was their home first, so you know, maybe they show back up again. I also just think that, like, I'm not going to stay on this one for too long, but, like, I also think that Albert, that King, is not the only Lunarian left. It'd be pretty damn sad if he was the only one left. I think there are others that have maybe been hiding in maybe subterranean caves or something, hiding in the cracks of the red line, building up their numbers, waiting for the time to strike. And this was the time to strike, I guess. I don't know. So it could be the Lunarians. You never know. And then finally, the least likely outcome, one of the dumbass celestial dragons was just hanging out and just smoking a cigar and just tossed it, and it lit the whole damn Holy Land up, and now it's just been chaos. Yeah, I edited it out with a joke. But hey, that's something they could do, right? One of the celestial dragons is hanging out. All of the plants are dying and dry because it's just been a drought or whatever. And he's like, my goodness, there's no food here. This is horrible. Oh, and then they run away, and then like the whole place goes on fire, and then like Emu is like, "Oh my God, what's happening? I want my giant army, and I want it now." All right, it got progressively more silly as I went, but those first two options more than likely, and that third option, the Eneru thing, like I don't know exactly, but like Enru's going to come back at some point, so we might as well fit him in here. You know what I mean? I don't see a problem with that. And the Lunarians coming back, I'm not completely, that might not be like a whole force, like an army of them, but there might be other Lunarians other than King that are around. Okay, so there's some options. All right, Emu, yeah, I don't know what's going on up there, but like those are your choices. Those are your options. Good luck or not. You kind of suck. So we'll see how that goes. Thanks for watching, everybody. This will be Techie 101 signing out. Later, all.